Hey guys, welcome back to Relatable Girl. As usual, I have to be kind of quiet because it's very late. But I have been meaning to make this video for a long time. This is a subject that is pretty tough, and I've kind of put it off because I wanted to wait until the right time to talk about this. But it feels like this is the right time to do it because I have posted recently, hesitantly, about the fact that I joined the app called Noom, and people have asked me how I like it, what I think of it, and I wanted to be able to review it. But in doing that, I also need to talk about my reasons for using the app and also my reasons for why the app has been helpful for me. And the ways that it's been challenging. So I feel like now is a good time to talk about this stuff. So this one's probably going to be a little tough and a little rambly. I apologize in advance, but this is a heavy subject. So I have had struggles with my weight since I was a little kid. I was not a large child. I wasn't super overweight as a kid, but I started feeling self-conscious about my weight at an early age, and unfortunately one of my family members made me feel even more self-conscious about my weight, and mentioned things about it from the time that I was like 11 or 12, and I just thought about it all the time. And I did get a little heavier from the ages of like 14 to 17. I was wearing a lot of like adult clothes instead of kids clothes just because they fit better. I've always had like wide hips, and I got a butt pretty early, which I like my butt now. I'm happy about my butt. But it was hard because I remember like buying clothes in the adult section when my friends were wearing clothes that were meant for younger, or for people our age, and I felt really self-conscious about it, and I really hated it. And about the heaviest that I ever got back then was 160 pounds, which was much heavier than the skinny people, but again, it wasn't like super overweight, but I thought it was, and I was just obsessed. And while all of that was going on, I also had an obsession with comfort eating, and I didn't just eat. It wasn't like I was sitting around eating a bunch of junk food necessarily, but I would way overeat everything, including good things like mashed potatoes or steak or hamburgers or whatever. And it was kind of like a pride thing because I was the oldest kid, and it was like a weird competition that I had sort of with my dad, like that I could eat as much as him. And it is ironic that he was the one who taught me to eat like that, but he was also the one who made me feel horrible about my weight. So I just had really unhealthy ideas of how I was supposed to eat. And then in my early 20s, I had gained more weight. I think I was up to like 180, and someone suggested that I try a version basically of the South Beach diet. I think it was called the Atkins diet, which in this was like you keep your carbs under a certain amount for the entire day except for one meal, and then at that meal for an hour you can eat anything you want. So this appealed to me because you could like eat however much you wanted at your cheat meal or whatever. So I was ferocious about this, and what I didn't realize was I was programming myself to have an eating disorder because I was literally binging and starving myself. And on a normal day I would have a store-bought like small like little bowl of a Greek salad, and sometimes I would have some kind of meat like chicken, but usually it was like a salad. And I would have a venti, or a large if you don't go to Starbucks, a venti size Americano every morning, and then sometimes have a smaller one in the afternoon, which for those of you who don't know, that's about 4 to 6 shots of espresso a day. I was drinking a lot of caffeine, and I would drink that black because I thought that coffee would help me lose weight, and because back then I didn't really have like, I didn't really have problems drinking caffeine then, which is totally different than now. And then, and sometimes I would have fruit, but even with fruit, it was very limited because that's a carb. So at the end of the day, for my dinner meal, I would just eat whatever. I would just binge and then starve myself the next day until dinner. And I did this for months, and I lost a lot of weight. I got down to like 160 pounds, or maybe even slightly under that, maybe like 155, which was the lowest I've ever been in my adult life, ever. Like the lowest I'd been since I was probably like 15, or maybe even younger than that. And I was ferociously proud of being thinner and being able to wear skinnier jeans and being able to shop at like Old Navy or Banana Republic and buy, you know, an 8 or a 10. I think an 8 was the smallest I ever fit in. But for me, that was a really big deal because I had been wearing 16s before that. And along the way, I started having more and more trouble with losing. Like I hit a plateau because my body was like starving, and I felt horrible all the time. I was cranky. I was tired. I was so stressed out. I felt faint all the time, but I had never like fainted from being hungry, so I didn't know that was something that actually could happen. I thought it was just like, you know, a thing that your body's tricking you about. And you know, I had heard these very unhelpful things all of my life about how when you're hungry, that's good. That means you're, you know, losing weight. And I listened to that. I believed that. And there was a day that this is back when I was working at a music store. I was an assistant manager. My whole life was so different back then. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, there are very few people aside from my family that remember the old me. It was totally different. I was an assistant manager back then, and I brought like a pack of instant oatmeal, and I had that for breakfast. I had a big old Americano, and I didn't really eat anything else at all that day. And because I knew that we were going to go out to eat at Uno that night. We were going to have a staff dinner. So I was like saving my calories. And so I didn't really eat that day. And I was sitting on the back of a chair at work. And I stood up really fast, and I had a head rush. And this had happened to me before, but this time I actually fainted. And on my way down, I hit the side of my head on a counter. And next thing I knew, there were people standing over me. I was on the floor. I didn't know what was going on. And there were paramedics there. And then next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance. And next thing I knew, I was waking up in the hospital, and my parents were there. And I couldn't remember a lot of things. And I was like really struggling to remember things, like just small normal things. And the people at the hospital, they thought maybe I was pregnant because I fainted. And I told them I wasn't. They didn't believe me. They tricked me into taking a urine test just so they could find out that I wasn't pregnant. They sent me home that night, and I got home and I had like a bad headache. And this was back when Kung Fu Panda came out, like the first one. So I watched that by myself. I like sat on the couch and watched it to like try and feel better, because I at the time just was like, wow, that was so weird. Like I had a crazy day. I ended up in the hospital. Like I'll be fine though. Like whatever. This is just crazy. And I watched Kung Fu Panda and I was like laughing, and I had a headache. And I went to sleep that night, woke up the next day, and I had the first panic attack that I've ever had in my life. And I thought I was dying. I asked my mom to take me to the hospital, take me back to the hospital, because I thought I was dying. My heart was beating so hard. My head hurt. I felt dizzy. I felt like I was going to pass out again. So we went back to the ER, and they finally like actually scanned my head, which they didn't do the first time. And I had a concussion and a sinus infection, but I had a concussion, and they told me I had had a panic attack, which I didn't know a panic attack could make you feel like you were gonna die. I don't even remember what they did. I don't remember what they did. I don't think they gave me anything. I think they just sent me home. And for months after that, my entire life completely fell apart. I lost my job. I couldn't go out in public, like at all. Like I would leave the house and feel like I was going to pass out. I couldn't be around bright lights. I had headaches all the time. Every night when I would lay down, as soon as I would lay my head down, my head would feel like there was so much pressure in it. And there were nights where I would literally just like lay there and wait for the sun to come up, because I thought like if the sun would come up again, everything was going to be okay. And then it would just be another day of feeling horrible. I had like numbness and tingling, so much dizziness. I was so depressed. I started getting massages for a while, and that helped some. I went to this really great lady that like she did something called craniosacral that kind of helped. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't watch movies. Like watching movies would trigger migraines. I didn't know it was migraines back then, but I remember trying to watch Doctor Who with my sister, and she really wanted me to watch it. And I started having one of the like TV triggered migraines, I guess. I don't know. And I struggled to get through one episode because I knew she wanted me to watch it. So, it was stuff like that. Going to movies was hard. And one of the first big things that I did was I went to Vermont, which was a few-hour drive away, and I saw Andrew Bird with my childhood best friends. And before we went in, I didn't think I could go in because like the whole ride up, I had had a horrible headache. And I said to them, I can't go in. I can't do it. We got all the way here. I can't go in. I can't do it. And I'm really thankful that Sarah made me go in. She was like, we're going to go in. Like, we're going to do it. And if your head explodes and you die, then that happens. Like, we're going in anyway. And we did. And that was really amazing. And I went and asked my friend Matt for a job at FYE. And I pretended like I had it together when I asked him. I did not have it together. And I feel so bad because like I don't know, 2 years we worked together or something. I would work about once a week. I would cry the whole way to work. I would get to work do the best I could. I would have a breakdown every single day at work. And almost every day I would have to call my mom and just talk to her because I was panicking. And all of this happened because I was so worried about being fat. And I hated my own body so much, the way that it looked, that I would do anything to be skinny. And the thing that is so upsetting when I think about it is that I was lucky. There are many other people that aren't as lucky as I am, because despite the fact that my whole life was changed in my early 20s, despite the fact that I missed out on years of that time in my life, despite the fact that my health has been a roller coaster ever since, despite the fact that as I am filming this right now, my head feels like it's being squeezed from the back and I feel dizzy, because it happens when I'm stressed out, and I'm stressed out talking about this. Despite all of that, I'm very lucky. I am so blessed that I'm alive, that I can function as well as I can, that I have a job, that I love, that I'm able to, see friends and go to concerts and do things that I care about and travel. Because there was a time when I didn't think I would ever get to do any of those things. There was a night that I will never forget, that I was laying in bed waiting for the sun to come up, and I thought, this is it. Like, I'm never gonna be able to move to New York. I'm never gonna write books. I'm never gonna get published. I'm never gonna make new friends. I'm never gonna go to another concert. I'm never gonna have another job. I'm never gonna get married. I really did believe that. It was such a low point. This was not what I intended to do when I started this. I didn't mean to make this so long and so deep. But I think that instead of trying to talk about the Noom app right now, I will wait and do that in a separate video when I am not feeling like this. So, I'll talk about that soon. I feel like I need to end on a happy note somehow. The happy note, I guess, is I'm recording this in New York City with very dear friends, and a wonderful job. And just this year, I traveled to several concerts that I wanted to go to, and I work at a music venue now. So I guess that's like the happy note to end on for now. But I'll make another video and we'll talk about Noom. But I just want to wrap this up by saying, if you are struggling with an eating disorder, I hope that you will get help. I hope that you won't believe that something like this will never happen to you, because it can happen to anyone. I hope you will get help. I hope you'll tell somebody. It's really hard, and I'm still struggling with it now, but I don't want this to happen to anybody else. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry this was so long. All right, I'll see you next time.